This is the weekly compilation of Mostly Facts. This week's collection includes both humorous and disturbing stories. Sit back and relax as we go over this week's most entertaining videos. Girlfriend sleep with me in my bed. I, 22 male, share an apartment with my best friend, Mike, 22 male, and Mike's girlfriend, Daisy, 23 female. We only have 2 bedrooms. Daisy is a heavier lady. She prefers the term big-boned. She also has sleep apnea. For these reasons, Daisy has her own bedroom. Mike and I share the other bedroom. I have been dating my girlfriend, Shandy, 25 female, for 4 months now. She was over at our place watching a movie with us last night and decided to spend the night. Shandy knows about our sleeping arrangements and doesn't have a problem with it, but she assumed that she'd sleep in my bed with me when she stayed over. I don't blame her for assuming this because this is the first time she's spent the night, but there's only space for 1 double bed in me and Mike's bedroom, and he and I share it together. Mike has a bad back and is too tall to sleep on the couch of our living room, and it would be rude of me to ask him to give up his part of the bed for my guest. I'd sleep on the couch and let Shandy take my part of the bed, but I didn't think Mike would be comfortable with that, so I didn't offer to. I told Shandy that she could sleep on the couch and I'd bring her a pillow and blankets. She asked if she could just sleep with me, and I explained to her why she couldn't. Shandy seemed fine with this and we all went to bed normally. However, she left quickly this morning, and when I called and asked if everything was all right, she said she was a little disappointed we couldn't sleep together and was upset that I chose Mike over her. This made me feel bad because my intention was never to upset her, so I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole for not finding a way to allow Shandy to sleep with me. Not really. You're really bending over backwards trying to make sure everybody's comfortable sleeping. And maybe a little more notice to the girlfriend about the sleep. Well, I mean, she was aware of the sleeping arrangements, so wait, she should have known about this and how the other guy couldn't sleep on the couch due to problems. Not really. You gave every notice about what was going to happen. And what about her place? Is her place just a pigsty? What about sleeping over at her place? Have they ever done that? Story 2. Bought the wedding dress my best friend wanted, but didn't get, and she's mad at me. I, 25 female, got engaged to my now fiance, 26 male, of 7 years on December 24th, 2022. I'm so happy and excited. The wedding is set for March 16th, 2024, and I've already planned so much. Now, the drama. My best friend, who I'll call Kay, 25 female, got married August 15th, 2022, and chose me as her maid of honor. We've been best friends for 10 plus years. I was super excited and did everything a maid of honor is expected to do, especially go dress shopping with the bride. We went to at least 3 different bridal stores together, and she absolutely fell in love with one from the last store. She wanted it so bad, and she looked absolutely stunning. However, her mom, who I'll call B, didn't like it. It was a little over budget and said it wasn't bridal enough and looked like a cocktail dress. Kay was clearly upset. So I tried to help her come up with ways for her to get the dress. Unfortunately, B didn't budge. Kay ended up choosing a different dress at a different bridal shop that was just as beautiful. Fast forward to February of this year, I asked her to be my maid of honor and invite her dress shopping with my mom and I. I try on several dresses at the first stores, but none of them were the one. So we go to the store where she fell in love with a dress but didn't get, and I try on several dresses. I knew I wanted to try on that dress just because. I didn't think it would be a big deal because she ended up choosing another dress. The moment I put it on, I knew it was the one. I felt so beautiful and confident for the first time in years. Kay went to the restroom, and my mom said I should talk to Kay to make sure she was all right. So before we all went to dinner, I asked Kay, "Will you be mad if I choose this dress?" She said, "I'd be a little jealous, but if that's the dress, you should get it." 2 weeks later, I said yes and set up an appointment for her to go get her maid of honor dress. I even offered to buy it for her because I wanted her to get a dress she wanted no matter the cost. After I said yes, she got extremely upset and ran into her dress room crying. My smile immediately went away, and everyone in the bridal shop could see. So that night, I went home after she ran out of the appointment, and my mom paid for half of the dress. She texted me a few hours later saying, "I'm sorry, you knew how much I wanted it for my wedding, and it feels like a punch in the gut." She also said, "It felt like a stab in the back." I couldn't stop crying. The next day, we had a girls' day because she didn't have a bachelorette. That's a whole different story, and we both apologized. We had a great day, and I thought everything was fine. Kay went silent for 2 months after that day. I texted her and basically asked her what's going on. She said, "Based on how I was treated during my wedding planning and then you getting that dress, you don't value our friendship." I was shocked. I honestly didn't know what she meant by how I was treated throughout my wedding process and didn't respond right away. The next day, I texted her. What she said broke my heart, and we needed to have a conversation. But I needed time to process everything. A week later, I asked Kay if she was still going to be maid of honor. I told her, "I still want you to be, but if you don't want to, I'll understand." And she responds, "That sounds like you don't want me to be." I said that was not the case, but I wouldn't force her and I would respect her decision regardless. She basically ended up saying, "I'm still going back and forth with it, but I'm leaning towards not being in your bridal party." Fast forward to weeks of trying to get together in person. We get together and talk. The conversation went well, I thought. I told her she's no longer in the bridal party and my second maid of honor is taking over the role completely. Kay and I both said we want to stay in each other's lives. One thing that Kay said that really ticked me off is that when I said can't go back in time and choose a different dress, she laughed and said, "You could if it would just be a lot of money." I've been really going back and forth on this and adding so much stress to myself. So am I the a-hole? Too long didn't read. I bought the wedding dress my best friend really wanted, but didn't get and is upset with me. Update. I'm going to try on more dresses on Friday and see about getting a new dress. It's definitely not going to make up for it because I was an awful friend and I have to live with the consequences. It sounds like she conversed. She checked. The friend actually, is it me or does the friend sound a little flaky? Or just saying stuff and then not saying what she really means? I think when she said, "Oh, it's okay, I might be a little annoyed," she was actually really upset that this woman was choosing the dress. I think it's more on the friend than this person. She was very open and say, "Oh, I can find another dress. Is it okay? I don't want you to be upset." I think she gave her every opportunity. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my mother-in-law after she made an announcement at my wedding? I, female 24, was married recently to my childhood sweetheart, male 24. Pretty small due to COVID, but it was planned well in advance so we didn't cancel, just kept it to family, and we planned to have a party with everyone else at a later date. For some background on my husband, his parents had him pretty young, 18 and 19 respectively, and he has a very close family. Our wedding reception was quite intimate, but we had the traditional speeches planned. Father of the bride, best man, husband's brother, groom. It was only the day before that my mother-in-law asked if she could have the mic to say a few words when we sat down to eat, and we said that would be great, but that she would need to go before my husband. Stupidly, we figured she would talk about us at our wedding, so we never asked what she planned to say. Big mistake. She announced that she's expecting a baby. She's still pretty young and very healthy, but it was a shock that just completely took over the night. What's even worse for me is that I am also pregnant and we plan to announce it at the wedding, but I told my husband to just leave it out of his speech. Everything felt a bit sour for me after that, so. After the wedding, I didn't speak to my mother-in-law for a few days, and I got a call from her sister, a guest, to ask what was up. I explained that I felt like the attention was taken away from us without permission. I would have said no, but still. And it was so unfair to spring that on us. Apparently, I ruined my own wedding because I was obviously ticked off about the good news and that I was being totally selfish. Maybe I was, but it was my wedding day that was already ruined by a pandemic. Husband is on my side, though clearly feels a bit uncomfortable telling his mom that, which I get as I don't want to have this argument directly with a pregnant woman either. The rest of the family is split down the middle, my side and his, because it was such a close family event anyway, and we all need some happiness. Now I'm starting to wonder if I overreacted and spoiled everything. Am I the a-hole? Thirdly, my petty revenge self would love her to have a baby shower, but I really doubt it. They're not such a big thing in the UK, and despite how she seems she's actually really good about the restrictions that could still be in place. Her birthday is in May, though, so I'm not ruling anything out. It started okay, making tea, complimenting my dress again, but no apology. So I explained how she made us feel without mentioning the baby, that it was our day, that she took the attention away from our love, that we were already sacrificing our dream wedding due to a pandemic, and she soured it for us. Father-in-law actually apologized immediately, but she started sobbing, kept mentioning her baby and how we ruined her pregnancy announcement too, so if anything, we were both to blame. It was the sympathy card for the ages. Eventually, my husband told her that he was really happy about the baby, but that she should have asked us, and she pointed at me and said, she wouldn't have let me, which just told us she knew exactly what she was doing, and I have zero regrets now. We tried. Best part? My husband stood up, told her she was being a narcissistic shrew, and led me out. He was pretty mad and stopped the car on our way home to tell me that any future forgiveness would be dependent on me, but that he could happily cut her from our lives after this. As it is, we're going no contact for a while and seeing how we feel later on. Boundaries were mentioned a lot, and we'll keep them in mind. We did not mention our pregnancy at all. She still doesn't know, and we probably won't tell her ourselves because she doesn't deserve that. That's as petty as we're going to get. I was in the middle of judgment on this as well until that line where the mother pointed at the bride and said, she wouldn't have let me. She knew what she was saying, and she just does not seem to have any empathy at all, wondering, like, what if someone had interrupted their wedding with some kind of pregnancy announcement or some other big announcement that wasn't part of the wedding that would overshadow it? She knew what she was doing. Not the a-hole at all, no. Story 2. Entitled mother tells me I can't use sign language at home because she won't learn it. So I've been told to share this. Not sure if anyone will be interested. This is about my adoptive mother. My adoptive parents are British citizens who moved to my country in the EU. They adopted me actually expecting mental disabilities, but I was just profoundly deaf. You would think that would be easier. So as I grew up, I get enrolled to learn sign language. But my mother decides it's too hard for her to learn sign language and actually bans me from using it in the house. I had to mime or point at things until I could start writing, upon which I carried around a notebook everywhere. If I did try to sign, I was called disrespectful for not including her in the conversation. In a strange way, this made my written language skills very good, as well as my lip reading skills, which many deaf people have challenges with. It was very difficult and upsetting living with her. My adoptive father was nice, but he just listened to whatever she wanted, so he became a bad parent too. I went to university and had limited contact with them. The one time I tried to visit them for the holidays, I returned to a house with a stranger's family. My adoptive parents had moved back to Britain without telling me. Who does that? That is really weird. Why were they adopting someone expecting some kind of disability, and once they got it, refused to go the extra steps to be able to communicate? Adoptive, yes, but your daughter. This is your daughter or your son. Very weird that you would just forbid it. It's very selfish. Story 3. I denied a cop the bathroom code at Subway. I was working at Subway and came in with his wife and 2 children. I had all 4 sandwiches started when the man asked me for the code to the bathroom. The policy was you had to make a purchase to get the bathroom code, but by the way he was doing the potty dance, it was pretty apparent this guy needed to go. Obviously, either he or his wife will pay for the 4 sandwiches I've already started. The next day, my boss sits me down and lectures me about how the code is on the receipt for a reason. She watched the tape and saw me give the man the code and told me, I don't care who it's for. Whether it's your friend, family, whatever, you name it, you do not give it the code under any circumstances. Later on that night, I was working by myself when some guy in a trench coat and greasy long hair came in the side door and said, Hey man, somebody got seriously messed up outside. A long line of customers waited for me while I subtly grabbed the bread knife, sharp AF, and went around to check. It wasn't the best part of town, so you never know with people. Anyways, as Trenchcoat Man stated, someone was seriously messed up outside. His face was all bloody and he was just a mess. I called 911 and went back to making sandwiches. Sometime later, a few cop cars and an ambulance showed up. They were doing their business outside, and then one of the officers came in and asked for the bathroom code. Like 6 hours earlier, my boss told me not to give it under any circumstances without a purchase. I laughed a little and told him what I told all the other customers. I'm sorry, but you have to make a purchase first. You can get a cookie, which is like almost nothing, and then it'll be on the receipt. He didn't realize the laugh was really at myself and how awkward of a situation he unknowingly put me in. Nor did I have a chance to explain it before the laugh and the rejection of the bathroom code caused the cop to become straight up furious. He gave me 3 warnings to give him the code. Each time I tell him I'm not going to give it to him, and the customers are on my side telling him I'm just doing my job. After his 3rd warning, he shook his head and muttered, I can't believe you're interfering with an ongoing investigation. And he uses the walkie on his shoulder to get some information. About 5 minutes later, one of the cops handed me a phone. I answered, and my manager said, Are you fracking serious? Long story short, the cop got the bathroom code and a free bag of chips. Totally on the boss. Totally on the boss. His instructions under nobody under any circumstances gets the code without a purchase. If he wanted to make cops an exception, he should have said cops were the exception. It's always the employee's fault, right? It seems that way. Just awful, awful situation to be put in. Awful situation. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I won't be helping with her kid? My 42 male daughter, 16 female, came to me yesterday and told me she's pregnant and going to keep the kid. I told her that she should really think about this, as this will impact her life forever, and maybe at her age, not in a necessarily positive way. She said that she's thought it all through and said that she knows that she is 100% keeping this baby. She's my youngest, and I have 2 other daughters. One is 19 and in uni, and the other is 18 in community college. Their mother passed away in childbirth with my youngest. and I've been a single. I have no regrets about having my daughters, but I know that if she has this baby, she'll want to continue schooling, and she can't do that with a newborn, and I'll end up being primary caregiver. I'm not one of those when you're 18, you're not my problem parents, but I am looking forward to somewhat of a break and maybe even finding myself a new partner, as I've been single 16 years, and I would love a relationship. I have funds set up for all three daughters, and they have the choice of things like school or house down payment. There's $35K in each account, and my only condition was that if they got the money when they turned 18, if they blew it all on things like alcohol and food, there would be no more money coming in their way except for absolutely essential reasons, such as not being able to afford food or bills once they move out. I told her that was her choice, but that while she was living here, I would not be taking care of her kid or paying for daycare during the day. My daughter said how was she going to be able to manage that as she doesn't have a job? And I just said that she would have to leave school and get a job, as that's the type of sacrifices parents have to do. She then brought up the fund, and I said that would still be off limits until she was 18, as both her sisters had to wait, as did she. She said that I was a smeggy dad and that I wasn't supporting her choice as a woman. I would provide things for my daughter, as I'm her father, and that's my responsibility. But I just said I wouldn't be providing cribs, diapers, toys, formula, and other baby things. My 19-year-old said I was wrong, as she is my daughter, and that's my grandbaby, so I should help provide a better life for them. But my 18-year-old says I'm right, and that if she wants to, she should have it to deal with all the responsibilities and hardships adults have to go through. Am I the a-hole? I would have to say, kind of not really. She has this tendency through all of this in saying she thought it through, but it all seems to involve getting the parent involved and pitching in for a bunch of stuff that she really can't do. It's not completely a-hole-ish. Part of it is the granddaughter. It is going to be her grandbaby, his grandbaby. So I think you at least have to have some sort of help given for the baby, as the baby has no say in this. But definitely there's a bit of entitlement with the mother. Story 2. I demand to be put in a seat that's able to recline. A few years ago, I was on a flight from LA to Singapore. Takes 16 plus hours. I'm a tall dude, around 6'3", about 190 centimeters, so I don't fit very well in economy class seats. On most planes, my knees are often very close or right up against the seat in front of me. This makes it impossible for the person in front of me to recline their seat, which usually isn't a problem once the person in front of me sees how cramped I am in those tiny seats. However, for this particular flight, the man in front of me was not having it. He tried to recline his seat, but couldn't because my legs were there. He turns around and sees what's happening and asks me something along the lines of, "Do you mind letting me put my seat back?" I respond with, "I wish I could, but I physically can't. I'll do my best to give you as much space as I can, but it won't be much." At this point, he starts to get angry and just starts pushing as hard as he can back on his seat. Needless to say, this was not particularly pleasant for me. I ask him to please stop, and he says, "I'll stop when I can put my seat back." I decide I'll just wait him out. He'll eventually get tired. After about 10 minutes of this, he calls a flight attendant over and proceeds to demand a new seat. The flight attendant tells him there are no available seats and he will have to deal with it. He demands to speak to the pilot. So the flight attendant goes up front to talk to the cockpit. Keep in mind that throughout this, he is still pressing with all his might against my knees, with only short breaks to yell at the flight attendant. After a couple of minutes, the co-pilot, he wanted to speak to the pilot and wasn't happy about this, comes back and tries to explain to the man that he can't change seats because there are no other coach seats free. The man continues to demand a seat that is able to recline. Give me an upgrade. This is unacceptable, making a scene, etc. The co-pilot finally gives in and says while looking at the man, "Sir, would you like to sit up in business class?" The man stands up and mutters something similar to "fracking finally," to which the co-pilot responds, "Sir, sit down. I wasn't talking to you." He turns to me and repeats, "How would you like a seat in business class?" I have to this day never seen someone as furious as the man as I walked past him to my new business class seat, with free drinks. This is a combination of a man who has the mindset of like a baby who really shouldn't. The baby doesn't know any better. This man has no excuse, and just being entitled and trying to finagle an upgrade because of all this. Like, how is this person suffering? He's able to sit, unless it's some sort of medical condition that he has to recline, which I don't think it is. This guy's just trying to demand a free upgrade, and it just ended up backfiring on him gloriously. I'm glad the person that was tall got a free upgrade. That was awesome. Story 1. Entitled woman tries to get family evicted, and it backfires. My boyfriend just told me this story, and I thought it belonged here. When he was 14, he was living with his mom and sister on a housing estate. It was summer, and he liked a bit of light in his upstairs bedroom, so he left the curtains open at all times. That included when he was getting dressed and after having a shower, so if you purposely stared at his window, you could only see him from the waist up. Well, their neighbor did not like that one bit. She was pounding on their door, yelling at my mother-in-law that her son was a disgrace, hanging around always naked and exposing himself to her daughter, same age as him. I told her he had every right to do whatever he wanted in his bedroom, and if they didn't want to see him, all they needed to do was to not look. A couple of days went by, and lo and behold, the police show up at their door. Turns out the neighbor had been filming and taking pictures of my boyfriend to show to the housing police as evidence of his wrongdoing to get them kicked out. Except that the housing office called the police on her for taking pictures and videos of an underage kid and kicked her and her family out. Just mess around and find out. That's just the whole definition right there. It's just putting yourself into other people's business. It's having to do this, and you think you're being offended. You're going out of your way to be offended. Just don't look there. And this is her being offended. It doesn't mention anything about the daughter even being aware of his behavior at all. Story 2. Was told to actually read the policy. So I did. I work for an office, and we have an 8-week busy season with mandatory overtime, 12 to 14 hours a day. During this time, the company agrees to reimburse us for dinner, up to $13 a meal. We just have to submit a claim without receipts at the end of the busy season. Food options around my work aren't great, so I usually brought my dinner from home. But sometimes I was too tired to cook after a long day, so out of the 8 weeks, I purchased maybe 10 meals. 3 of those meals I spent $13.50, going 50 cents over the limit, and this resulted in a whopping $1.50 overage, which my manager said was no big deal, and that I could include on my expense claim. He signed off on it and everything. A few days after I submitted my report, head office emailed me saying they rejected my expense claim and that I could resubmit after I removed the $1.50 overage. I wrote back saying my manager was fine with the $1.50 overage and even signed off on it, and they responded by telling me that they do not allow overages under any circumstances, that the $1.50 must be removed or they wouldn't approve any of my meal expenses. They ended their email with the advice that I should actually read the company policy next time. Fine. They were right, and I was wrong. So I decided to read the policy very thoroughly before redoing my expense claim. Yes, The policy clearly stated a $13 maximum on purchased meals. Oh, and what's this? The policy also allows a $10 per diem for meals you bring from home. I very happily removed the $1.50 overage and added an additional $300 for the 30 meals I brought from home. I should read the company policy more often. This has become something very common with a lot of employees really, fighting back against really bad company policies. Read the company policy. Know what it says and make yourself aware, because you just might run across something like this. How many people want to bet that the company changed their per diem policy after this happened? One. Am I the a-hole for asking mom's boyfriend to stop trying to parent me? My dad passed away suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she started seeing. I'm 23 male and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has 2 daughters aged 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family, becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy. I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks that it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because family. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door, there's a door to the basement and the stairs to go into the house. So it's pretty separate. So last night I was designated driving for some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight, though, man, boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and sent to my room and possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner, but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure, and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father/son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult, or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family, and they think I'm an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? What is mom's opinion in all of this? This is the mom's son, and the boyfriend is not the son. The boyfriend is not the father. Why is he trying to lay down these ground rules, and why does the mom seem so silent about all of this? I'm glad this person has a way out. He's going to be leaving after he graduates, so he's not going to have to put up with this much longer. But I think boyfriend is just truly overstepping. Not even discussing, just trying to lay down the law on someone. This is 23. This is not like 18 or anything. 23 and he's trying to lay down the law on him? No. Story 2. Owner refuses to let me do jury duty. This was back in the 80s, my first job, working as a maintenance man at a local hotel. I'd been there working part-time since I was 16, and when I turned 18, I got a notice to attend jury duty. I picked a week and I let my boss know. The owner of the hotel found out. He was always a completely unreasonable jerk to all the employees, and sees me in the hallway and tells me that I need to do whatever it takes to get out of jury duty because he needs me at the hotel that week for a large dog show, clogged drains, etc., and if I'm not at work, I'm fired. When I get to jury duty, day 1, I get selected for a week-long trial, and the judge asks jurors if there's any reason we cannot serve on the jury. They go around. When they get to me, I'm nervous. Never been in court before and too scared to lie. I told the judge that the owner of the business I work at will fire me if I'm not back today, and said I needed to do everything I can to get out of jury duty or I'm fired. Other than that, I'm fine serving. The judge looked ticked. The judge has me approach the bench, ask me for the name of the owner, location, etc. Then he hands the court officer a paper and says something to the officer. The judge still looks ticked. I'm told to return to the jury box. About an hour later, still selecting a jury, the officer returned with the owner, visibly shaken, in handcuffs, and walked to the front of the judge's bench. The owner is standing in front of the judge. The judge asks him questions which he apologetically tries to worm out of. Then the judge, looking even more ticked, instructs him that I will be here for jury duty, I will serve as long as I need to, and he should not do anything to retaliate against me, and that the judge is filing charges, and I will be instructing the clerk to check with me regularly, and if for any reason I'm fired or face any disciplinary action at work, he will hold the owner in contempt, violation of a court order, etc., a bunch of legal stuff, and he will spend time behind bars thinking about how important jury duty is. Then the judge makes him apologize to me in court. I made it onto the jury and I served the week. I reported back to work the following week. I expected some blowback, but I never got fired. None of my shifts were changed, and I got paid for my time in jury. I didn't ask why I got paid. The clerk did check back a few times, and I was told to call the judge's clerk's direct phone number if anything happened. It was awesome. I was pretty much bulletproof and worked until I saved enough to go back to school. Wow. I wish I could have some job security that way. That is just really amazing. And the truth pays off. This is one of those times where, hey, I would be glad to serve jury duty if it guaranteed job safety. I bet that owner was not expecting to be hauled up in front of this judge in handcuffs for this. It's great to see an owner of a business being held accountable for anything these days. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to honor my boyfriend's family tradition? My boyfriend, Eric, 29 male, fake name, and I, 27 female, have been dating for 3 years. For context, I have met his family and they're friendly. We don't meet them very often because they live in my boyfriend's home country. I don't want to reveal country names either for privacy reasons, but my boyfriend and I are of different nationalities and we both work in my country. The conflict happened during our visit last weekend. We've been looking up houses to move in together and engagement rings. While we were having dinner, we mentioned this to his family as it's a big step in our relationship for us. We're not engaged yet. His parents and brothers expressed their happiness for us. Then out of nowhere, his youngest sister-in-law asked, "So is she going to take the test?" I asked, "What test?" In summary, the boyfriend's family has this tradition where the future mother-in-law tests future daughter-in-law to see if they are good enough for her sons. Apparently, his mother and aunts went through the same test. The tests include how clean they can keep a home, how well they can cook, their manners, etc. Basically, life skills most people learn from childhood. I found it ridiculous because 1, if I'm good enough for my boyfriend, he should be the one deciding it, and 2, I don't fit into their targeted category. In his mom's words, you can't be a good stay-at-home wife and stay-at-home mother if you can't be a good homemaker, and she wants to make sure of that. To be clear, his mom and all 3 of his brothers' wives are stay-at-home mothers, and although I respect their choice, I'm not quitting my career and did not under any circumstances make my boyfriend think I could compromise on that. I hate house chores. and I would rather buy homemaking gadgets and hire staff, no matter the cost, than have to do chores myself. I told my boyfriend's mom all this, and it caused an argument that eventually ruined dinner and, in extension, our visit. Boyfriend doesn't care whether I'm a working wife or a stay-at-home wife, but he thinks I should have just done the test because it's just a test, and it's not like they would reject me if I failed it. He thinks it's a fun tradition that everyone was looking forward to, and I should have gone along with it anyways. My boyfriend thinks I'm the a-hole and suggested I make this post. Am I really the a-hole? I'm sure you guys will let me know, so am I? I don't think she's the a-hole here. This is lack of communication on this whole family's part, including the boyfriend, about this tradition. I mean, is this just some sort of goofy little test? Some kind of ribbing? Or are they going to really judge? Is this going to be something that's going to be hung over their heads for the rest of their relationship when they get married? There's a lot of miscommunication on what exactly is going to go down on this. And if they're talking about moving in and getting rings, the boyfriend should have definitely told her about this. I don't think she's the a-hole.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.